How to deal with Mindblock in OC game. So my name is Ryan. I'm just your average OC player, and I'm going to explain some ways on how we can deal with Mindblock in OC game because it is a topic that I feel like a lot of people struggle with, and I'm going to cover some strategies I use in here to deal with it. But I just want to say that these strategies that I cover are not 100% success rate, and I'm going to explain them in order from the ones that I use most to the ones that I use least. So first, we got to explain what Mindblock actually is. So Mindblock is when you're gapped into one part by thinking about the time you missed. So if you think about the time you missed at a particular part and you're about to go into that part while you're FCing, you are most likely going to miss at that part because you're imagining the time that you missed. So we can see some mental process here. If we think about missing at that one part, we are going to eventually miss there, all right? So the simple solution of dealing with Mindblock is just don't think about the time that you missed there, right? Well, it is a lot easier said than done. So I'm going to cover some strategies on how we can deal with that. And I just want to point out that the commonality between these strategies are that they change how your brain and your eyes perceive the map. Because the theory of this is that if you change your perception of the map, whether it be through the sound or the visuals of the map, then I believe that you won't be distracted from that one part that you missed at, and you probably won't think about it, and instead you will be putting more of your brain power into the actual reading of it because the perception of it looks a lot more different than what you're used to. So that's kind of my theory of it. That might not be the actual reasoning for it, but it works for me, and it kind of makes sense to me. These strategies that I am going to cover, they work for me most of the time, but then again, they are not 100% success rate. So let's just start with the first one. The first one is the nightcore method. So a lot of you guys probably already use this, but it's essentially when you're tilted off DT. So when you're playing DT and you're trying to farm and you're mind blocking this one part, what works for me is that if I am tilted at that part and I keep missing there, I turn on nightcore, because what that does is that it changes your perception with your ears by changing how the song sounds. It changes the pitches upwards, makes the song faster, and also adds a percussive beat to the song. This changes your perception of the song, and it can kind of change how your brain perceives it, which can distract you from the fact that you missed out this one part and you were mind blocked at that part. So what I do is that when I'm mind blocking on DT, I put on nightcore the next time, so if I missed at that part, and what happens is that after a couple of attempts, I FC that map. This is the method that works for me the most because I do play DT. For those of you who don't play DT, it might not really apply to you, but most OC players do play DT anyway, so this is a pretty good method. A lot of you guys probably already do it, but hopefully my explanation can probably help you understand why it works. And then the next one is the Forgor method. So I call it the Forgor method because it's essentially when a map you're mind blocked on, you just take a break from it and come back to it like a lot later, like a couple weeks later, a couple months later. In that time period, you probably got a lot better at the game, but also decays the memory of the map from your brain over time, which means that the next time you come and play it after the long break, your reading of it's going to be feeling a lot more difficult because you haven't touched that map in a long time, because you're essentially going to be like kind of sight reading it again. So this basically changes the perception of the map again, even though it is fundamentally the same map, because your brain is going to have a lesser memory of it, unless you're just one of those photographic people that can memorize everything you see, but most people aren't like that, and this method works pretty well. There's also a lot of other reasons why it would work, where again you would get better at the game. So perhaps at a part that you were mind blocked, you were actually not good enough to hit that part yet, but now that you are a lot better, you can easily hit it. It's either that or your perception of the map is changed, but either way, it works for me. I come back to a map that I haven't played for a long time, and I usually end up FCing it anyways. And here's the third method, the skin method. This is essentially a method where you change your skin. So when you're tilted at a map and you're mind blocked apart, if you change the skin, it changes the hit sounds, it changes the perception of the map, it changes how the map looks. So a lot of people associate changing skins while you're farming with, this is a tilter, right? You're tilted, you should probably move on to another map. And that is kind of true, because at that point, if you are at the point where you are changing skins while you're grinding the map so hard, you are probably pretty tilted and you should probably move on to another map. But if you really want that FC and you just want to keep grinding, then it is an actual valid method in my opinion. Again, it changes the perception of the map, changes how the hit sounds sound, changes how the circles look on the screen. This is what the skin does, it changes the perception. So again, as the theory was, if we change how our brain and eyes perceive the map, then we are going to put more brain power on that part of reading the map instead of thinking about the time we mind blocked it apart. So I just want to point out that this is a bit of a double-edged sword here with the skin method. So some skins will objectively make you play worse because the skin could be so obstructive to your view and your reading of it that you're gonna have to put so much effort into actually playing the map with this new skin that it's gonna detract from your playing ability into the map. So you gotta pick the skins that are most compatible with you instead of just putting on some random skin. Let's keep that in mind. So the fourth method is the overlay method, where you basically change how the overlay looks. So you can toggle it on and off by doing shift plus the leaderboard button, like on the left. So for me, that's shift grave. For most people, it's probably shift tab if you haven't changed it before. What this essentially does is it again changes your perception of the map. It can also remove distractibility from the overlay around the circles, which could make it so you can focus more into the map and you won't be thinking about the combo or the HP bar or your accuracy and all that. So that's kind of how the overlay method works. I know some of you guys probably already play it off, so it wouldn't really apply to you. But again, this is something that I occasionally use because I do play with overlay on. Putting it off does allow me to focus in sometimes more. Yeah, I just want to point that out. And then the fifth one is the hard rock method. So this one is kind of iffy on if it actually works or not. Again, I said none of these are going to be 100% success rate. So the hard rock method is essentially when you're playing like a nomad map and your mind block on this one pattern, you want to put on hard rock on the next run and play it through on hard rock, because what hard rock does is that it switches the map upside down and also makes the circles a lot more small. They come a lot faster. So essentially you change your perception of the map again, right? The map is also a lot different. It is fundamentally more different if you switch the notes upside down, and the notes come a lot faster and they also disappear faster, which means you have to change your reading of the map by putting it on hard rock. So what this essentially does is that the map is a lot more different. But the problem with this method is that if you put on hard rock, you're going to be engraving the memory of playing hard rock, because if you want to FC on no mod, then playing this might be a little iffy because it's not actually helping you destroy the mind block on no mod, but it's actually changing it up by playing on hard rock, and it's just going to be a different section, if that makes sense. But this is something I personally use sometimes, and one of my friends does as well, where you essentially put on hard rock after you've been struggling a bit, and then you come back to no mod, and no mod feels a lot easier because again, you were used to like another way of playing the map, but now you're going back to this, so it kind of switches up in your brain a bit. So that's kind of the theory of how the hard rock method works. Again, I don't really know if it 100% works. So I don't use it all of the time. I use it sometimes. Again, I use it like on everything will freeze one time, just put it on hard rock, and it did help like a little bit from my experience, but again, it's a little iffy because I don't really use that much. And then the last one is, this is kind of like a bonus one because I don't personally use it, but I heard that it works for other people. And what you essentially do is that you either change the background of the map or you change the MP3 of the map, so it sounds different. So again, different perception of the map. The map sounds different and the background looks different. What this basically does, kind of tricks your brain into thinking that you're playing a different map, even though it is fundamentally the same map circle wise, because if you change the background in the song and the background, it looks and sounds like a different map. I personally don't use this because the reason why I don't use it is because I'm too lazy for that, and I've never gone to the extent where I have to really change the BPM of the map, or I have to change the song of the map and I have to change the background, but that's just so much of a hassle, bro. I ain't doing all that. Again, these strategies aren't 100% success rate, and again, all of these strategies change the perception of the map to distract you from the part that you mind blocked at. Take all of these strategies with a grain of salt, of course, and you can try all of them and see which ones work for you. The ones that work for me the most are nightcore method, the Forgor method, the skin method, and the overlay method. The hard rock method in the background changing stuff, they're kind of I mean, the background in the MP3 one sounds a lot better than the hard rock one, but the hard rock one is just a bit iffy, right? That's kind of how I deal with Mindblock. Maybe it could help you, some of you guys. You could use this as a toolkit. So again, the nightcore method, the Forgor method, the skin method, the overlay method, the hard rock method, and the background/audio method. That's kind of end of the video here. And if you want more advice videos like this, you can subscribe to the channel. And you also join my Discord server here on the link below. We got leaking multis and like cool events and all that. I'm just providing a service to all of you guys in there. Yeah, that's kind of it though. Thanks for watching.